So after a refreshing nap with our subterranean exploration out of the way, it's now time to go after the third soul for the third night, and that soul is going to be for Roulette Boy. Now, believe it or not, we're not even going to need to gather up any information to go after Roulette Boy. All we need is that die that we picked up on the third floor of the basement, and with that in hand, Roulette Boy should no longer try to run away from us. Now, while that may make things seem pretty simple, that's really just the starting point to this bizarre excursion we're about to have. And with a spin of his head, Roulette Boy has taken us to a pocket dimension where we are going to start learning about the board game of hell. Now, while it has something of an imposing name, it is an otherwise fairly simple game to get down. There is a board ahead of us, and we just need to get to the end before our opponent does, or before our mental gauge reaches 0. Now, our mental gauge isn't going to go down as slowly as it would if we were outside of this pocket dimension, though we are going to be able to get some items that may help us, I guess, renew our mental gauge. And if we're even so lucky, we might land on a white square to regain some mental gauge. Now, we're going to learn about choosing items whenever we get to the actual game itself. But you want to keep in mind that you can only carry 3 items at a time, so you might want to be very careful. For now though, let's get started. Now before we get started, we need to see who goes first. So whoever gets the higher number spin will get to go first. I get pretty lucky here. Gregory, though, not so much. So we get to go first. So as we start out, we see we have a few menu items here, such as the ability to use our items. We can also see how Gregory is doing, but most importantly, we get to see a layout of the board. Because every time you play Hell's Roulette here, the board items do change up a little bit. So after we get a good layout of the land, I think it's time we take our first spin and see where we land. You can see along the bottom there, we have 35 squares to go, and we had a bit of bad luck right there at the start. The bomb square will cause us to lose quite a bit of our mental gauge.
Forward 2 squares!
And the 10-ton counter is something that could be fairly dangerous. It could lead to us losing a turn, though there is a little bit of a counter we can use to, I guess, send it back to where it came from.
Forward 3 squares! The present for ya!
Also, there are a number of gates along our pathway to the winner's circle. And in this case, our randomized item is a very, very useful one, though, more importantly,
terrible bother.
By doing our own 10-ton counter to the 10-ton counter we were initially given, we can counter that counter and counter the counter.
Damn it, spin me! Forward 6
Though there is a much larger issue
It couldn't be.
that Gregory has run into where he has been returned all the way to the start. That counter is just continuing to grow as we get further and further ahead of him.
Damn it, spin me!
Now, one of the more important squares that you can land on as you make your way across the board is the move square. The move square simply gives you an additional turn, though you aren't able to get another look at the board, so it's kind of a crapshoot if you can remember where you might land next.
Forward 8 squares! The present for ya!
So our next present is going to be some red herb tea, just a better healing item if we need it. Also, if your opponent already has a 10-ton counter above them, landing on it again will not send them another one or make the 10-ton counter go any quicker.
Forward 1 square!
At this point, though, I think Gregory might be getting a little bit desperate as he is pretty far behind, and he does manage to get in a few additional move squares here.
Forward 5 squares!
The second one does go to a bit of a waste,
The lucky number is...
since that 10-ton counter finally goes into effect. And honestly, by this point, we are close enough to the goal where we can finally use one of our items, which is the W up card, which will double the amount that we get from spinning the wheel. Which means that all we have to do is at least land a 6 on the roulette, and we should be good to go.
Forward 14 squares! The present for ya!
Now, while this little mini game here is pretty unique and it can be pretty entertaining to do at least once,
Present for ya!
it is a definite gamble about what kind of luck you might have when you get in here. Now, you can kind of game the wheel a little bit to really land where you want it to be, but depending on the layout of the board, you might not find your road to the goal as simple as mine was.
Job! Go!
But upon reaching the goal, we do get our final soul for the evening. And if we want to play the Hell's Roulette again, we can, and we will be able to get even more prizes from doing so, including a few unique books to extend our mental gauge. Problem is, as of right now, it's just not ready yet, but it will be ready on the 4th and final night. So I might be indulging in that a little off camera. Also, he allows us to keep the die in case we want to just use him as a teleport to get back here again. For now, though, we are transported into one of many roulette rooms that are inhabiting the basement, and we finally get a look around the entryway to his pocket dimension. Definitely a gambler's paradise here with darts on the wall and I think some lottery accoutrements on the opposing wall. Also, there are a few random items of interest in here, including a bizarre cameo from the anime, this taxi here that is called Hell's Taxi, that transports people to Gregory's hotel. Otherwise, though, there's really not anything we can do in here right now, and considering the hot streak we just had, I think we should just head back to the room. We don't want to tempt the fates too much, especially after that extremely good run we had, so for now it's time to end night 3, and I will see you next time as we head into the penultimate night.
Yeah, that's what you always say.
on now. Give it up. Throw away all them worries. Oh, it's you. Did you manage to pick up any souls? Oh, you only brought me one, huh? I take it? Hey, thanks a lot. Here, I'll stamp your card for you. Would you look at that? While we've been here jabbering, a whole bunch of new guests moved in, and they got souls too. Good luck there, buddy!